Hi, it's Nikki Lowe, and welcome to the Wisdom for Working Mums podcast show. I'm your host, and for nearly 2 decades now, I've been an executive coach and leadership development consultant. And on this show, I share evidence-based insights from my coaching, leadership, and psychological expertise, and inspiring interviews that help women like you to combine your work, life, and motherhood in a more successful and sustainable way. Join me and my special guests as we delve into leadership and lifestyle topics for women, empowering you to thrive one conversation at a time. I'm so happy that you're here, and let's get on with today's episode. I don't know about you, but I'm always inspired by hearing stories of other women, how they're combining their work and motherhood. And today's story is one that I think you're going to want to listen to because it's a journey that's full of setbacks, challenges, navigating discrimination and bias, and how this woman has found her way to thrive through it all. My guest is Charisse Pache. She's COO and co-founder of Dapper Boi. And in 2015, Vicky and Charisse founded Dapper Boi, which is a gender and body inclusive apparel line. And its mission is to inspire people to find confidence in their authentic selves through their clothing. Their company has achieved over $4.5 million in sales. And today I have Charisse with me to share her journey with us. Her entrepreneurial journey is a testament to really her resilience and a value deeply installed by her Filipino-American immigrant parents. She's got an extensive background in sales and management, and she's leveraged her expertise to make a significant impact in the fashion industry as the co-founder of Dapper Boi. This gender and body inclusive apparel line is not just a business, it's a mission inspired by her wife Vicky's personal quest for clothing that mirrored her true identity. After a challenging IVF journey that resulted in 2 beautiful twin girls, she's been juggling being a devoted mother and an ambitious co-founder, and the balancing act between parenting and professional life has deeply influenced her worldview, bringing authenticity and purpose to her business. And the pandemic completely tested them, and in this episode you'll hear about how they navigated all of the setbacks with the pandemic and trying to run your own business. And we talk about her leadership that's enabled Dapper Boi to be flourishing now with, as I say, over $4.5 million in sales and a diverse customer base serving over 35,000 people. And her journey from being a stay-at-home mum to the COO of a successful 7-figure business is all about empowerment and demonstrating the profound impact of perseverance, love, and the courage to pursue our dreams. And what we talk about goes beyond kind of business operations. We talk about inclusivity and diversity. And her hard work has seen Dapper Boi in the spotlight on ABC Shark Tank, which is like the US version of Dragon Den. And she's also earned a place on the prestigious Out of 100 2023 list, highlighting the brand's impact on the LGBTQ plus community. And also, Charisse plays a pivotal role in the documentary Show Her the Money, which critiques the fact that less than 2% of venture capital goes to women-owned businesses and less than 1% goes to LGBTQ plus founders. I know this conversation is going to be rich with wisdom about entrepreneurship, parenthood, diversity, and embracing our authentic selves for success. So I won't keep you any longer. Let's dive in. Welcome, Charisse. I'm so excited to have you with me and with my audience to share your story, because there's kind of such a fantastic story behind why you're here today. And I wonder if you could kind of share with people, for those that don't know about you and the journey that you've been on, how you went from being a stay-at-home mum to the COO of a 7-figure company.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Like, saying it in that way sounds like pretty incredible. But yes, it's been a journey. My wife and I met, and we actually started a business together. And we fell in love, and the business kind of went by the wayside, but that's kind of how we had started. We had always had very entrepreneurial mindsets. A couple years later, we got married. We had twin baby girls. And, but on our honeymoon, my wife, she is plus size, dressed a little bit more on the masculine side, used to, dress in or buy clothes in the men's section. But none of those clothes are made to fit a woman's body or curves. So it kind of fit her aesthetic. It fit her, the look she was going for. She definitely like had a boost in her confidence, but it didn't like fully fit her. So she still didn't like, she wasn't over the hump. So, in, on our honeymoon, I like to say that a lot of people like to conceive their first child. And for us, my wife, told me about this idea that she had for Dapper Boi. So on our honeymoon, we conceived our business.
Amazing. Because
Yeah, it's
I've heard you kind of say that actually, traditionally, if you go into a department store or retail store, you've kind of got two directions to go. You either go to the women's section or to the men's section. And actually, that's very kind of black and white thinking. And what you've done is really shake up the kind of fashion market.
Yeah, it's so archaic to think about like you're a woman, go on the woman's side to buy clothing. And, now there's these studies that show that Gen Z, over 50% is dressing outside of their gender, you know? And so this is the way of future. And so we really feel like we've revolutionized it because this is where everyone is going. Like it shouldn't be about what your sex is or your gender is. It should really be about your style, your preference. And for us, we're just making clothes. Like I wear our clothes. It doesn't necessarily have to be for individuals that look like my wife. We actually had a pretty well-known football player just try on our clothes, because men have curves. I love wearing our clothing. I have an hourglass shape. We thought through functional things like deep pockets. Women's jeans have absolutely no pockets because we're supposed to carry big purses and carry all the things. We also have the button pockets so that you don't get that chest gap. So all of these things that my wife had thought about, and my wife was a very successful marketing executive in casinos and had done that for over 10 years. And so when I said yes, I had no idea like how crazy our lives were going to be. We ended up downsizing from a 4-bedroom condo into this tiny apartment. We were shipping jeans out of that apartment. I mean, it was just insane. But when I said yes to my wife, I said yes all the way. So someone just asked me the other day, how is it being a mom and how is it being an entrepreneur? And, I feel like we were so fortunate. I had the most difficult pregnancy. I was so sick the first trimester, like crazy sick, nauseous around the clock, like, and then because I was so high risk, we did IVF and, I had the multiple pregnancy. So I was on bed rest at home for 5 weeks. And then my cervix was opening up very early on in the pregnancy. So I was on bed rest, hospitalized for 6 weeks. I could only get up for 5 minutes to shower. It was so insane. However, we were so fortunate because my wife was able to be there. As an entrepreneur, you're kind of setting your own schedule. So my wife was able to be there for every step. We had our laptops open while I was on my hospital bed. So that was nice. Once the girls were born, I was, as much as I could during naps and at night, I was, working and I was part of every big decision, but we just made it work. It was really amazing. However, and then when the girls turned 3.5, we put them in preschool and I was able to come on full time.
Okay. And then your role within the business is as the COO.
Yes, I'm COO. And it was so interesting because when I came on, I think it was 2021. And this is like, COVID was like an interesting time when people were staying home. 2020 was actually a pretty exceptional year for us. That's really where we had started hitting, our revenue was really going up. I think people were at home, going through their closets, finding brands like ours and shopping. So that was going really great. However, during COVID, when the supply chain issue happened, and we were on like a pre-order model, everything stopped for us. So we almost lost it all. And yeah, so a lot of our customers on pre-orders were like 3, 4, 5 campaigns in, and it had been months, almost a year before we were delivering product to them. So ethically, we just had to stop, and it was like so detrimental to our business. We had to take a pause. On the supply chain side. And so that was really scary. And what was nice is on the bright side, now I can see, as far as working with my wife, I can't imagine her going through that alone. I was able to come in and, really help support through all of that. We just got back down to the basics. We did this exercise together as a team. We had to like lean out everything. We let go of quite a few people on the team. We let go of some of our agencies, and it was just me and my wife and a whiteboard. And, we kind of reverse engineered it. So first we said, okay, what does Dapper Boy look like in 10 years? And of course, we put on all our hopes and dreams and what we were excited for and where we would like to see the vision of Dapper Boy. And then we reverse engineered it and we said, what does a world look like without Dapper Boy in 10 years? And that was so impactful to us because, we get so many stories from customers that say, because of your clothes, I was able to have the confidence to walk into work and work hard enough to get that promotion. And it was through the confidence of my clothing. Like I feel seen, I feel heard, I feel authentic. And no longer am I thinking, am I presenting my best self every day? You've taken that burden off of my shoulders. We had a mom reach out that their child saw one of our ads and, was suicidal. But like now knowing, one of like the things that we've needed, especially after COVID, like one of the things that I think a lot of people realize is they need that sense of community. And I think our brand does that. Um, and when we heard that, it was like, there's no way that we could stop. So we've had to make some tough decisions. We actually are in this documentary called Show Her the Money. We shared that we sold our home to keep our business afloat. And that was such a tough decision as a mom to have to do, but it was one of the best decisions that we made.
Oh, that's interesting. And asking that question, I imagine, is so powerful and a lot of people don't do that. It's almost like a consequence question. It's in coaching, we would call it an ecology question about actually what happens if I do it? What happens if I don't do this? And it sounds like that really connected you to the purpose of the business. And I know you talk about it's not just about clothing, it's a movement. And I imagine that's really what it connected you to. It's like, this has to be done. The world needs this and people need it.
Yeah. I'm so fortunate that I can walk into a department store and pick clothing. That's a privilege that so many of us have. For so many individuals where it's like, wow, like I don't feel like myself. For clothing, we all get dressed every day and we wear clothes that represent us on the outside with how we feel on the inside. So if we help people feel more authentically like themselves, more so feel more confident every day. We all have that one piece of clothing where we're like, yeah, I feel absolutely incredible wearing this. Like for us to have the opportunity to bring that into so many people's homes, their lives, is so impactful. And that's why it's a movement for us. But as a mom, more importantly, why wouldn't I want to create a space in this world where like my children in the future can feel more authentically and know that we're doing good with the things that we're doing, that the decisions that we've made have been so that they can feel authentic. Their friends, their partners just, can feel confident every single day. I hope there's more brands like us in the future.
Yeah. And I love all your marketing. I've been following your marketing and it's got such joy to it. the dancing and the music and I'm just like, I want to be part of this movement. And
Oh,
yeah,
good.
and I think hearing you say actually the risk in selling your home, and particularly when you've got children, that was a tough decision. But I imagine when you weigh it up against, well, if we don't do this, what's the implication? And it still impacts your children, as you say, because we want them to be authentic in this world.
Yes, yes. It's I say this pretty often. Couple things. First off, Dapper Boy is like our first baby, so it's our third child. And there's nothing I wouldn't do for my children. And there's almost nothing I wouldn't do for Dapper Boy. If if our 35,000 customers didn't have a brand that they could look to that, could make them feel more authentic. Wow, that's like so powerful. So we knew that we needed to push on. Like if we couldn't invest in ourselves, how could we ask a potential investor to invest in us? And also it's like being a first generation Filipino here, I think my parents put all their hopes and dreams into me. They wanted me to be a nurse or, have something where I had a lot of security, get a pension, all those things. I feel like in our culture, security is love. That's how you show love to your family. But I want to break that generational expectation. I want my children to see, like in that dancing video, we had our kids in there. We try to bring our kids up in as many podcasts or anything that we're doing because we want them to be able to hear that we're proud of them and that we're trying to create a legacy for them and be role models. We take them into the office on the weekends, but looking back, it feels like it was easier to come out to my family than to come out and say that we needed to sell our home. That was such a big thing to be able to say that I was first in my family to buy a home, and it was so exciting. It was such an accomplishment. But at the end of the day, it's one material thing that I was holding on to when I think about the lasting impact that decision could make for our company and for so many other families as well.
And I love how values driven you are in everything you do. And we can say that we're values driven until it gets uncomfortable. As you say, actually, I'm putting authenticity first. But then when you've got to have those difficult conversations with your family of origin, breaking the mold on all different levels of, gender, your sexuality, what's expected of you in terms of your family of origin. I don't underestimate the resilience and courage you've had to show at each level of your journey.
Right. And I love that you brought that up because when it gets hard, it's easy to give up. It's easy to make all the excuses. So, when I said yes to my wife about Dapper Boy, I meant it. And so when we came to that tough decision, we did the reverse engineering. We had a lot of people in our ears saying, when is it time to throw in the towel? What's your backup plan? And we've always said that it's plan A all the way. If you're even giving a sliver of energy into plan B, you no longer have 100% conviction in your original plan. Like if you don't 100% believe in your plan, your vision, your goal, your beliefs, if you're not putting everything into it and you don't have the grit, the resilience to get through the bumpy roads, you're never going to get to like the end goal and like all the success at the end. It's so easy to give up, especially from people that are that have never been entrepreneurs, have never been in your path. It's easy for them to tell you to give up because they've never seen what it's like to be successful in your path.
I
So
love that because you've not compromised on your vision. What I'm hearing is like during COVID, you may have had to adapt your strategy to your vision, but the vision never got compromised.
right. It was always, always going to be Dapper Boy, and it will still continue to be Dapper Boy. And we can't put energy into something else because it's like, how can we give 100% to Dapper Boy? There's There's literally room for nothing else. We put all our focus there.
And it's interesting because I heard you say a couple of times now, it's like your first child, it's like your third child. And actually bringing that mother bear energy to kind of protect your business is so powerful. And I wonder what else has kind of parenthood and being a mother influenced about either your leadership or how you
Yeah.
approach kind of entrepreneurial life.
Yeah. So my wife and I are both Leos. And we both bring different strengths. It's so interesting being a parent with and a business owner with my wife. And we kind of came to the agreement that, like, in work, she's the leader, and we we have that plan, and she's the CEO of the business, and at home I'm the CEO, and so we really take on those different hats, and we play on each other's strengths. However, I think sometimes she's so deep into the business that I have a little bit more of a bird's eye view. Especially during COVID, it felt so like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? I was able to step back and say, okay, let's look at our resources. We're going to do this, 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 and this. And we were able to just check it off because it felt so overwhelming, but we were able to break it up. And same thing, like when I became a mom, before I was a mom, I had never changed a diaper. I was so overwhelmed. I had our girls were born at 29 and a half weeks. They were 3 pounds, 7 ounces, and then my other 2 pounds, 14 ounces. They look like little dolls. I was so terrified that I was not going to know what I was going to do. I was just disabled with postpartum anxiety. And so my wife was able to come in again from bird's eye view and say, okay, here's what we're going to do. And we were able to come up with like a schedule, which you need. Like, I was so militant about the schedule with the twins, because at some point it was like one was napping at 1 minute, the other was napping at I felt like I was losing control. So she was able to come in and really dial it in. So I think that we really play off each other's strengths. Previous to this, I also was I worked in higher education, and I led a team of over 20. And it's so incredible because it's actually that prepared me to be a mom. Having twins and, 6-year-olds with different personalities. One of my daughters is neurodivergent, so they have different needs. And I always thought having twins is going to be so easy because I'm just going to do the same thing with both of them. And I realized I have to manage both the same way or differently. And then as far as my wife, I feel like what has really been so impactful for our relationship is we wake up every morning, we look at each other and we say, what's the plan with the family and what's the plan with the business? And then we execute. And that's just always how we have started our day. And it's just, we start every day on the same page. And then we talk at the end of the day. I mean, we literally work next to each other for 8-9 hours, and it can be completely quiet for those full 9 hours. And then we kind of debrief and say, this is what went well. This is what we need to fix tomorrow. And communication is just so key with us. And it's always on the two things, the business and the family.
And that's really powerful because it could very easily go the other way, couldn't it? When you're living, working, parenting together, that could be all consuming. But it sounds like you've developed your strategies that you're able to compartmentalize them, communicate really, really well. And you mentioned that having a team of 20 really has helped you. And I'm wondering, what were the lessons that you took from that environment that helped you kind of as a mother, but also in Dapper Boi?
Yeah, it's so interesting. One of the things I learned in a leadership class is you will spend 80% of your time with 20% of your people. And at first, that kind of went over my head until I had a couple high maintenance employees. Um, and I realized that I just was being so hyper focused on some of the things that they weren't doing right. And I really wanted to improve it. And it just really was so all consuming. And it made me realize, like with the business, when we really start to hyper focus on problems and concerns, and we're no longer focusing on the things that are going well and how to improve those, and how the things that are going well, the things that I felt like were quote unquote problems kind of work themselves out, because um, the 20% that weren't performing or were being a little, were steering off in the wrong course, either felt like they weren't part of the success and didn't want to join in the team morale, or they got on ship and they said, you know what, like, we've got a great team. I'm going to, get on board and I'm going to join the team culture. Sometimes as a mom, you start to hyper focus on, or even with the business, what's not going right and how can I fix it and how can I improve it, instead of focusing on these are the things that are going right and let's focus there and let's try to lead with a little bit more positivity and improve that. And I think that's really, really helped me in so many areas, business and being a mom.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense, and how easy it is because we have that negativity bias that we start to focus more on that, how it can suck our energy and time and almost feed like a toxic environment. So it's great that you've recognized that and have been able to implement it. I'm wondering, from those challenges, because it sounds like every step of the way you've had to overcome challenges, kind of what would you say are the core things that are your strengths or the skills that you think have helped you to do that? Because I imagine that I could be speaking to somebody else that has kind of experienced those challenges but not been able to overcome them. It might not be in the same situation, but there might be a theme of, COVID, how it impacted them, or kind of being able to juggle the family and the business. What do you think have been some of your core strengths or skills that have enabled you to do that?
So I think that we live in like such an interesting time of social media, and we always want to present our best selves. And that, um, and I fall into that too. It's like, for the business or our family lives, like I was only showing the first steps, but I didn't show the path to get to those first steps. I was comparing myself to my other friends with kids in the same age group. And I said, gosh, they're walking a lot faster. They're talking a little bit faster. Same thing with the business. Gosh, like we have friends that have started businesses around the same time and they're way further ahead. I think that we play that comparison game with social media. We also don't want to show the full picture. And so recently, April 2023, we were featured on Shark Tank. And when we were on Shark Tank, and we were at the height of our world falling apart. We had to make the decision to sell our home. We were finding a rental. Like, as a matter of fact, if we did not sell our home that first weekend, we wouldn't have been able to make rent in our rental property.
Wow. So it was literally to the line. And just for anybody listening that's not in the US, Shark Tank is like the equivalent in the UK of like Dragon's Den, isn't it? Where you go on a TV program and you present your business for investment. Is this where you, yeah. Okay.
Yes. And so that was very scary. And then on top of that, we were in filming for a documentary called Show Her the Money. And so, they were in our lives for about 6 months while everything was going on. As a matter of fact, they caught behind the scenes Vicky and I having the conversation of, I think we need to sell our home. And they got that without us knowing. So it definitely, we should be coming to the UK very soon to do an exclusive screening. So I definitely will let you know. However, once we got the producer that told us, okay, this is your air date for Shark Tank, what was interesting is I was still playing that everything's okay. There's a fire. There's a fire going on all around me. But on social media, no one knows what was going on. As a matter of fact, my best friend, we've been best friends since sixth grade. She had no idea what was going on. And I remember looking at my wife and I said, oh my God, my best friend's going to find out everything that's going on Shark Tank. Like I had this realization, like no one knew what was going on, and she's going to find out with the entire world. And how scary is that? And so to have that, I had to pick up the phone and oh my gosh, like it just once I told her everything. I mean, in between sobs, obviously, but once I told her everything, it was like, oh my goodness, like I feel so much better. Like I had this burden and like to have that vulnerability. And now, to every time we go to a screening and entrepreneurs and founders get to watch the actual journey of what it's like to fundraise, almost lose it all, share our family story. We did end up getting an investor, which has been amazing, game changing, life changing for our business. And we're still fundraising for our business, but they've been able to see the journey. And I think it's through the power of that vulnerability that people can see like it's not always roses to, to get there. There is a path of resilience. So I think our power has always been vulnerability, and leaning into that, sharing our story, as scary as it is, sharing our story with so many founders out there to hopefully inspire others, not just through our clothing brand, but just letting people know like sometimes like the decision to leave a career that you've been so like, that you're not, you might not be happy in it, but you've had this calling or this something that you've been wanting to do for a really long time. It can be tough, but it's doable if you're willing to make the tough decision. And I think that's really where our strength has come from.
And I love that you've shared that. So thank you, Charisse, because just the title of this episode is like stay at home mum to seven-figure business owner. And it just makes it sound like, oh, it's effortless and anybody can do it. And you're an overnight success. And, we see the highlights. We don't always get to see all of the hard decisions and the blood, sweat, and tears that go on behind the scenes. So the fact that you're giving people insight into that, I think, is so powerful, because what you're showing is it's possible, but actually it's not easy by any means. And that journey, the resilience and the commitment that you've got to keep to your vision and the optimism about we can find a way is so, so important. And I know a big part of kind of the message you share is around diversity as well. And I wonder, as a member of the LGBTQ plus community, what are the kind of specific obstacles or biases you've had to face from that perspective, either as a leader in a business or as a parent? And how has that shaped your journey?
Yeah, I would say, from the business end, it's so interesting, this show or the money. Really, what it focuses on is that less than 2% of female founders receive venture capital funding. 2%. And when you think about women, and there's so many studies on female founders and the level of success that they have compared to men. And it's not men versus women, but it's what women are capable of. I mean, we're able to run a household. We are able to run a family like household finances. We are able to manage children and run a business. Like that's why Beyonce said who runs the world, it's women, because we do everything and we're able to be successful at it because we're just engineered differently where we can manage many things. And so when we think about like, the business, how can we be a little bit more resourceful here? Guess what? We've already done it at home. So we're going to know how to do it in business, right? It's like how many moms have taken Zoom calls breastfeeding? Like we are able to manage so many things. We have so many balls in the air and we do it so effortlessly because we're just wired to do that. So when I think about our business, and we have been fundraising for quite a while in comparison to other businesses, it's like male-led businesses, it's almost like a boys' club. Some women have been shut out of the financial literacy type of conversation. So I think that there are some biases when it comes to women and funding and business. Specifically with LGBT, it's less than 1% of female-owned businesses and LGBT BIPOC that have received venture capital funding. And that's why it was so important for us to share our story. And then on the flip side, it's interesting being, we live in a suburban area and there aren't a lot of same sex couples. And, it's also interesting because one of my kindergartner daughter, her friend came up to us during a play date and said, my mom saw your mom's on TikTok. And so to have that increased visibility, we know that more eyes are on us. Um, and we've always believed that it's not necessarily about marching around in rainbows. And I think people obviously can see that we're a same sex couple, but it's also normalizing what a same sex couple looks like. Like we want our kindergartner kids' families to see that. We try to say yes to a lot of play dates because we want them to show we're just a family. You know what I mean? We operate like every other family. We want it to be normalized. We want those conversations in your home to say, hey, did you know that Tori has two moms? What does that mean? Like we want to open up those conversations. I think it's about representation through just being us and showing that, we're a caring and loving family also.
And I really, really appreciate you sharing that, because I was just listening to you say, actually, there's more eyes on us. And I was thinking, does that mean then you feel more pressure and more judgment? And if you did, it would be really understandable to go, well, we want to close ourselves off and not feel that. But you're actually opening yourselves up and going, no, come into our home, come and see, come and experience this, to normalize that. Yeah, we're just a family. All families come in so many sizes, shapes, forms. And yeah, we are just a family.
Yes. And, I have the most wonderful wife. I think that she actually made it easier to come out because my family got to know her. And it was really just based on the relationship that they had with her. I mean, my brothers are closer to her than they are to me, which is all that I could have ever asked for. It's really about showing people that, um, we want to be a safe space for a lot of people, and we want to open it up so people can ask questions. I actually just joined, I'm one of the chairs of the PTA and the DEI committee because I want to be able to have that type of impact wherever we can. It's like, I want my kids to feel recognized, to be heard, to feel authentic, and again, to normalize it. Because if, I read this study of more that almost 50% of Gen Z is now identifying as non-binary. And how powerful is that? And so if I could make an impact with, maybe having, more conversations with parents about what it means to be LGBT, or what non-binary means for your child, or how to support your child through that, we do try to be a resource in that way.
Love that. And what it made me think is actually a lot of the challenges for working mums are those gender norms and stereotypes that have existed for decades, centuries, that often are holding us back, the assumptions. And actually, you're breaking that down at every level, intentionally and unintentionally. And that just supports us all. So, yeah, just thank you for what you're doing. And I'm over the moon to hear the success that you've had. And I just wish you every continued success because, as you say, it's not about just the clothing, it's the movement and the ripple effects of that. So, if there was just one thing that you would hope that somebody listening to this conversation and the journey you've gone on would take away, what would you want that one thing to be?
So I've talked about the business. I've talked about being a mom. One thing that I've really been diving into is doing something for myself because I'm doing so much for others. I recently got on the side of TikTok that is Eatless Curls. And this sounds so silly. However, I used to wake up and just sometimes we would work from home or go into the office and I wasn't making that extra, I don't know, putting in a little extra effort towards myself. And I recently started finding joy in going down the rabbit hole of finding different hairstyles to do for myself, or, putting on a little bit of makeup every day. And it's making me feel more confident because I'm taking a little bit of time for myself throughout the day, we're still busy as heck. And so, I do find joy also in finding little hacks for myself, maybe packing my kids' lunch at night so it's not the crazy hustle bustle in the morning. And my kids feel a little less stressed in the morning getting out the door, or in the morning or at night taking a little more time for myself, doing a little 20 minutes on TikTok, figuring out a little hairstyle so I feel good in the morning for myself. I think that the art of self-care for yourself, being a mom, juggling all of these balls, being an entrepreneur, we got to take a little time for ourselves and remember that if we don't take care of ourselves, so many things can fall by the wayside. So take that moment to have a little joy for yourself, whether it's like reading a book, finding a good show, doing a hairstyle, putting on some lashes, something to find a little joy for yourself, I think is so important.
Love that. And you look amazing. It was 7 o'clock in the morning with the time difference, and your hair and your makeup look phenomenal. So whatever you're doing is working. And and I think that's really important because, as you say, between being the professional, COO and the parent of young twins, like, where's the time for you as kind of the personal? And I love that you've kind of recognized that and are carving it out. And it's a reminder to all of us, because it can feel difficult to do, and also kind of the judgment of we should be there for everybody and everything.
Right.
So if people want to find out more about you and Dapper Boi, which I'm sure they will, where would you send them? And I can put all the links in the show notes. So where would you recommend?
Yeah, so we're on Instagram at our handle is Dapper Boi. We also started an Instagram to follow our behind the scenes entrepreneurial journey. So we get a little bit more raw there. And so it's Meet the Paches, and our Paches, Pasche. And then our website, www.dapperboi.com. And boy is with an I.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. So brilliant. I shall put all the links in the show notes. And you've got an amazing following on Instagram. And it doesn't surprise me because, as I say, that it's such a feel-good feel to your posts. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for getting up so early as well. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed this episode of Wisdom for Working Mums, please share it on social media and with your friends and family. I'd love to connect with you too. So if you head over to wisdomforworkingmums.co.uk, you'll find a link on how to do this. And if you love the show and really want to support it, please go to iTunes, write a review and subscribe. You'll be helping another working mum find this resource too. Thanks so much for listening.